Hey everyone, welcome back. So I talk a lot about how to look polished on this channel, and it's really hard to achieve that when we're talking about clothes that are poorly constructed, made in bad materials, or that simply do not fit you properly. So today I thought I would share with you a few tips and tricks on how to spot those red flags and how to recognize good quality in clothing. The benefits of having a critical eye in this regard are endless. Not only are you saving money and being smarter financially, but you will also be able to kind of find those hidden treasures that perhaps have a lower price tag but still deliver on quality. Secondhand and vintage are great for this, but you would also be able to apply these rules for more affordable brands as well. And of course, once you develop the capacity of recognizing quality, you will know if a higher end brand that has huge price tags is simply trying to rip you off. This is an endless subject. Given the low standards of production nowadays, I could honestly get away with doing a whole channel just talking about this, but I thought I would just share with you the more prominent elements that I see out there that are just non-negotiables for me. And if you like it, I could end up doing a part 2. Who knows? But I think it's also important to point out that much of the knowledge and the sensibility that I have developed in the past couple of years have come from also following content creators that focus solely on this. People like Justine Leconte, like Jennifer Wang. On Instagram, there's also Fawn Los Angeles. There's also Anna Aranova, I think it's her name. I'll link them down below because they totally deserve a follow. They do a great job. Let's begin with point number 1, the basis: stitching. It's literally what is holding your garments together. So you want the right amount of tension, of density, and of technique. If you can see threads hanging out, if you can see sort of uneven, crooked stitching, if you see that the stitch has been sewn over a couple of times to kind of correct an error, if you can see puckering or pulling around the threads, run the other way. What we want to avoid here is the look of something that was rushed, something that perhaps instead of being corrected was just, glossed over. And speaking of rush, my biggest pet peeve: when a piece of clothing is completely done in an overlock. An overlock is done in a machine that will do the standard straight line of the sewing, but it will also cut the edge of the fabric and loop in another thread, which creates a sort of border. It has its place. It is used a lot in technical materials. It's good for those fabrics that are heavy and hard to handle. But the reason why I know this is a lazy solution to problems, it's because I have told you about this before. I went to fashion school for college, and when it came to any type of garment construction class, I was the worst. I was the worst because I was lazy. And you know what stitch I was using for every single garment and project I made? An overlock. So I know that when a brand is overlocking everything inside, it means they're trying to cut time, cut corners, cut money, and that is not what you want in your closet. What you're looking for are straight, clean lines, no tugging, no overflow of fabric. And if you see that some part of the piece has been put together with a more considerate, more complex and harder to achieve type of stitch, like a French seam, like a bias binding, like a flat fell, then you know that the brand is not just throwing in a huge markup to rip you off, but they're actually putting effort and investment into a piece. Second thing to keep in mind is construction, and I think this is so very crucial because a piece can be made with the most luxurious, high quality fabric in the world, but if it doesn't fit properly, it looks terrible. To exemplify, I went out on the wild and found this blazer. Can you see how the lapel kind of folds weirdly? It just screams cheap. Also, this dress, can you see how the loops are different? They look kind of just sewn together very unintentionally, so they don't match. The pockets in the front are not symmetric. You can see that the closure around the collar is really weird, with kind of the placket of the buttons coming through the opening of the collar. Nothing looks right with this piece. Other construction issues could be the misalignment of either seams or prints. Crooked grain lines are also very common because it is very expensive to cut the fabric in the direction that it's supposed to be cut. So whenever a brand is trying to save up on money, they're just going to plop on the mold, cut it out carelessly, trying to save as much fabric as possible, and then the falling of the garment on your body will suffer. Third thing to keep in mind are materials, and I think this can be a bit overwhelming because unlike the cut and the fit and the stitching of clothes that are very immediate in terms of visuals, you can really see when something is off, materials require knowledge and sometimes wear to see if they're high quality or not. And it would be so easy for me to just tell you, just buy these 100% natural, super high luxe fabrics and you'll be fine. But sometimes not even that is enough. So to make things easier, I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I usually apply when I go shopping, beginning with looking at the fabric in the store. And in this case, don't just zoom into your size. Look at the whole array of sizes that they have displayed, because then you have a wider sample of how that fabric will behave. Do you see any fabric defects? Do you see color fading? Do you see elasticated parts already kind of stretched out, looking wavy? Do you see threads coming out, peeling, forming, just a fabric disintegrating before your very eyes just by hanging there in the store? That is a huge red flag. Then you can hold the garment against the light. If the fabric is not supposed to have a transparency, a lightness like an organza or a chiffon, and you can see light coming through it, it's probably bad quality. It's going to be a low thread count that will wear off with time. Then you can feel it in your hands. The tactile part is really important here. Is it smooth? Does it have density? Does it look like it's consistent? How does it fall? Does it have a beautiful kind of form to it? Does it look like it was made for that piece, like it's an appropriate fabric for that cut? Is it scratchy against your skin? Take a mental note of those observations and then look at the composition tag. If it's mostly synthetic, I would say don't go for it, but if it is a nice blend that will probably help with durability, with some elasticity, with waterproofing, perhaps help with wrinkling, then I don't see a huge problem. And this will vary from person to person and situation to situation. For instance, I cannot deal with, during summertime, polyester tops. They make me sweat more than a sinner in church. So I know that for those specific reasons, I need to shell out a little bit more of my budget on linen, on cotton, on silk, on things that are breathable. But I could totally deal with a polyester skirt, for example, as long as it doesn't look cheap. Also, if you're looking for a coat for winter that is wool, not only that will make you look good, but that will keep you warm, then you want something that has a higher thread count, a very tight knit, a good warm material, a great percentage of wool in the composition, and it will serve its purpose. Then last item to consider are the finishing touches. We're talking about buttons, we're talking about zippers, we're talking about those decorative elements like feathers, like trims, like fringes, like embroidery. A great tip here, if you want to find a happy medium, for instance, you have seen that it's a beautiful piece that is well made, looks well constructed, fits you properly, but perhaps comes with a weird looking belt that you can remove. I would totally totally go for that piece and wear something that I have at home, no problem. Same thing with decorative buttons. Perhaps the piece itself looks good, but the buttons look a little cheap. I would upgrade just the buttons, but keep the piece. We run into problems when that finishing detail is structural, like for instance, a zipper. It's something that it's not easy to replace. It's something that can ruin the piece and hurt you and can really make it embarrassing when you can't zip up your dress after coming out of the restroom at a party. We're not making that mistake again. And I think this all connects with a key point, which is don't compromise on quality just because you like the concept of something. Here's a practical example. I have been really caught up in the lady jacket cardigan trend. I just love it. However, a trend will always bring with it some more simplified, lower quality versions on the market. Case in point, this train wreck. Can you see the crooked lines? And what makes me even madder is that online it looks half decent, but then when you see it in person, this happens. It doesn't even look like the same piece. The knit is already unraveling. The buttons are too heavy, kind of make the pockets droop down. And in the theme of pockets, do you see this shape? This is not the camera doing weird things with angles. This is what it looked like, a trapeze. Who wants a trapeze pocket? Who said in the production line, oh, this totally passes the quality test? Slapping a bunch of gold buttons on something does not a lady jacket make. Another example is this mini skirt. I know the whole Miu Miu kind of unfinished, deconstructed sartorial pieces are very in right now, and I think that is what this piece is trying to achieve. But oh my, mission not accomplished. Look how flimsy the hook is. Imagine you're just walking around and your skirt just flaps open for the world to see. That frayed trim is also not going to age well, probably going to start unraveling after a few washes. It's just the classic maxim of quality over quantity, especially in a world where fashion has become so replaceable, disposable. We are bored so easily because we don't have the commitment of investing in a high quality piece. We can just throw out the $8 t-shirt that we got on a sale because it doesn't feel like a huge loss. But being selective and mindful helps in an array of facets of your fashion life, from looking polished to saving you money in the long run to the environment. It's a win-win any way you look at it. So next time you have a shopping itch, make sure you think about it, be smart, and you'll thank me later. This is it, everyone. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone by making this video. I wasn't trying to be harsh. I know that we have different moments in our lives, different budgets. I know that 5 years ago I couldn't buy the same level of quality that I can today, but just by being mindful of these elements, I think that you already kind of develop an eye, and eventually when you do get the extra budget, you will be able to spend it better. I would also like to ask the ladies who usually leave me comments, because they are so knowledgeable and have so many great insights on quality clothing. If you have any tips on how we can easily kind of identify those pieces that are worth our money, please leave them down below, because those tips are priceless. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see each other again next time. Bye bye.